Yo ho ho, listeners. Jolly Mast Chris to all of you. I hope you're all feasting on slow roasted pork or a mulchy vegan alternative, and that you're all stocked up on spiced rum and hollowed out coconuts for putting drinks inside. For lo, hear the arrival of this special day that comes to us every summer on the 25th of June, heralded by the trumpeting of laid-back beach ballads that all sound exactly the same as each other.
On a Mast Chris shore, hear the Mast Chris roar of the little kids screaming for mercy.
And to celebrate this special day, I wanted to share one more recording I found during my adventure in the tape room here at Crowley Towers.
See Crowley Time episode 32, Earthlets, Czar Jazz.
It's an episode of an old interview show back in the good old days when they were so desperate to fill the yawning chasm of the television schedule cheaply, a talk programme was allowed to go on as long as it fancied, uninterrupted. And particularly scintillating or contentious conversations could go on for several days. So unlike the dense and varied broadcast timetable we see today. The guests featured in this recording are hardly ever captured together in the same place, so this is a very rare insight. Let's have a listen. Play us in, Beach Guy.
Some clip that Tom found in the tape room.
It's Matters of Concern, with your host, Dudley Delirio.
Good evening. If you're anything like me, you've probably spent a lot of your past week preparing for Mast Chris. Peeling the bananas to make peel nog, seasoning your pig, blacking out the windows and hiding your more wayward children in the basement. All pretty ordinary stuff. In our increasingly secular modern world, Mast Chris has become one of the few traditional festivals embraced equally by those of religious faith and those who aren't so certain. But is Mast Chris granted unfair prominence in the calendar? Certainly other less well-observed loser holidays like St. Swithin's Day, Maundy Thursday and National Model Train Week don't get nearly so much press. But others do come a bit closer. So can Christmas, the so-called Mast Chris in December, ever hope to attract as much attention as its warmer counterpart? And just why has it lingered in second place for so long? I'm joined this evening by Christmas's greatest advocate, its patron saint, the jolly old ogre from the North Pole, Mr. Christmas.
Good evening.
And across from him, the mascot, if you will, of Mast Chris, the curse of the clouds, semi-mythical sky pirate, Captain Mast Chris.
Good evening, Dudley.
Captain, if I can turn to you first and ask, just what is it that makes Mast Chris so beloved?
Well, Dudley, as you know, children are malleable and in need of role models. They ain't learned the ways of the world as yet, and so they need a certain kind of moral instruction, boundaries put in place to teach them what constitutes responsible behavior.
Like flying around the world cutting people up, I suppose.
That
Mr. Chris,
not well.
Mr. Christmas, please, you'll get your turn. Please, Captain, continue.
As I was saying, children are rewarded when they're well-behaved with gifts and treats, particularly on their birthdays or on traditional gift-giving occasions, like Christmas.
Yes, you hear that?
Please, Mr. Christmas.
And while they might adapt their behavior to earn these trinkets, that only teaches them to play up to the law to get their way. Does it teach them to mend their ways in an ongoing capacity? No.
That is
Mr. Christmas, just a moment. You'll get your turn, I promise you. Now, develop that thought, Captain. What is so different about the role you fulfill?
Well, as I think most people know, 6 months after this creature has delivered their gilded baubles, just as the children have begun to take their treasures for granted and they've begun to get naughtier and more wayward again, I sail the skies of the world with my demon elves and we seek out and punish those that have strayed from the path.
In what way punish?
Well, being pirates, we'll plunder the presents back to teach the children that it's not enough merely to be nice for a few weeks a year. You've got to continue to behave well year-round. That's the way the world works. Nobody's going to reward you for being nice once in a blue moon once you're an adult. If you slip even once, that has consequences.
And stealing back the presents, is that the only way you punish the children?
Well, no, it's not the only way.
I'll say.
In what other ways do you punish them?
Well, at some times, in extreme cases, when it's really necessary, we might skewer the children and their families with our cutlasses. But
You see? Do you see what I'm saying?
No.
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
No, Christmas,
this
no.
preening
Christmas, no.
privateer
You
with
listen to
his
me.
eyeliner
You were
and his
not there.
fancy flying
Mr. Christmas,
boat,
you were not
his
there
behaviour
at the
is an
beginning of
absolute
the holiday.
disgrace.
Please, gentlemen, we've got a lot to talk about. It's not helping anyone to resort to screaming and shouting. Let's try to keep this civilized, shall we?
Will you tell him that?
Tell me about it. Tell you about it more like.
Mr. Christmas, let's turn to you. Just what is it that you object to about the captain's work?
I don't object to it. I just think it's a bit funny that this 10th-rate festival of slaughter...
It's a holiday, Christmas. A public holiday.
a 10th-rate holiday.
Yes, you've come at it with an open mind. I realise that.
This so-called holiday is apparently intended to educate children, to teach them to behave better, and instill moral values in them going forward, or so this buccaneer claims.
It does, yes.
I just think it's very amusing that a festival, and the people who celebrate this festival, who claim to be on the side of right and morality, are so happy to go along with an event that celebrates violence and aggression and chopping people up, that's all.
Rather than your candy-coloured festival of cuddles and cosseting and telling everyone they're wonderful all the time, you mean?
Don't you dare! Don't you dare say that!
Please, both of you. Captain, let's let Mr. Christmas have his say.
It's beside the point. Anyway, look, the purpose of Christmas is to provide a haven of warmth and love and care in the cold winter months, and to show children that good behaviour will be rewarded.
Temporary good behaviour.
And what is more, I'd say it takes an awful lot more time and hard work to make and deliver 1 billion handcrafted wooden nutcrackers to the children of the world, compared to just waging indiscriminate mayhem and destruction,
Rubbish! Damn and blast ye.
by the way, he and his rancid crew would be doing anyway, even without the excuse of a public holiday, because he's not a festive mascot, he's a violent magical sadist.
I'll have your eyes for that, you bearded jackanapes.
Well, now's your chance to answer that, Captain. Is it just about the violence and death for you?
Categorically not, Dudley.
Ha!
My crew and I, we were summoned from hell, or a parallel hell-like reality, depending on your personal beliefs, out of purely noble intentions.
Noble intentions, my mince pie.
We were manifested to do our solemn duty of scouring the globe for nasty little tykes, not for any sense of personal enjoyment, but for the betterment of humanity. Simple as that. Before we came along, these little miscreants would get their rewards every 25th of December, and
There.
as soon as the wrapping was
There,
off...
hear that? He admitted it.
Sorry, what was that, Mr. Christmas?
He just admitted it before he came along. Christmas predates Mast, Chris. It is the original annual festival, far more fundamental to the calendar. Mast, Chris, is just a cheap and tawdry imitation of the original.
Or the improved second draft, perhaps.
You...
People may not always like our methods. People may get squeamish at the idea of things like hacking up an entire family with a cutlass. But if we don't do it, who is going to do it? You? You, Mr. Christmas?
Not bloody likely.
Exactly. Festive monsters like you and the Easter Bunny and the Maundy Thursday Bat, you weep for these children, and you curse my skyship, the Angry Maiden. You have that luxury. But the truth is, deep down, in a place that you don't talk about at your carol concerts, you want me on that ship. You need me on that ship.
I need you to pack up your cutlasses and your weird little horned friends and sail off into a volcano, thank you very much.
Right, all right, so let's talk in real terms. Mr. Christmas, is that what you'd like? For Mast Chris to be censured, to be wiped off the map of the year, so to speak? Sorry, that's a calendar, isn't it?
It's not my place to tell the people of the world what they can and can't celebrate.
You could have fooled me.
I just think it's the responsibility of all good parents to ensure that their children are exposed to the right influences, that's all.
But whose responsibility is it to decide which are the right influences?
Well, not yours, Dudley, that's for sure. And thank goodness.
How do you mean?
Don't think I can't spot your prejudices going into this. Quite frankly, I think this entire program has a very clear pro-Mast Chris bias.
I don't agree with you. I think we're very fair and impartial.
Then why are you wearing a Hawaiian shirt?
It's a sunny day.
And flip-flops?
They help prevent foot odour.
And why do you have several cocktail umbrellas in your hair?
This is an afternoon recording, Mr. Christmas. We've all had our lunch break.
He's paranoid, Dudley.
All I mean to say is, it might not be a very popular opinion these days, what with Watergate and Mrs. Thatcher and what have you, but I happen to believe that nice is better than naughty.
That's as maybe, but perhaps nice isn't enough for some people. Maybe some think it's important to introduce children to the darker sides of life as well, to teach them that not everything's all smiles and rainbows. What about them?
Well, that's just their tough shit.
They're what?
Nothing. A rude word. Next question.
No. What was the rude word?
Shit.
Was it really? Well, that doesn't seem very nice, does it?
Very well put, Dudley.
Well, it's him. He gets on my wick.
I'll get on your wick in a minute. I'll get right on it.
Any time, Captain. Any time, anywhere.
No, please, gentlemen, let's not get carried away.
As soon as those cameras are off.
Just you give me an excuse.
Now, look, we've spoken a lot already about the differences between you, but it must also be worth discussing the things that you have in common.
Like what?
Well, it could be argued that you're both in the same boat as, perhaps, slightly outdated figures.
Outdated
figures?
Yes, well, Captain, you use corporal punishment to deter children from transgressive behaviour, and Mr. Christmas, you essentially bribe children into behaving well with the prospect of material gain. I think that in the 20th century a lot of people would regard both of those as pretty outdated and morally questionable practices, don't you?
Interesting. Captain?
Get his legs.
What? No!
I'll give you outdated, morally questionable, is it?
I'll skin you alive, you lad-loving couch.
That's all we've got time for. Tune in tomorrow when my guest will be controversial actor Robert Mugabe and pop sensation Earth, Wind and Fire.
Blistering, I think you'll agree, eh, listeners? But speaking personally, for me, Mast Chris has never been about the retributive violence, or the eye patches, or the scurvy. No, it's the sense of spiritual equilibrium it represents. The true significance of the season is that, yes, we've got halfway through the year, but we've still got a way to go. We mustn't lose our focus yet, but still, we have this one special day to sit back, take stock, and shiver with the trembling, sweaty relief that we haven't yet been murdered by magic flying pirates. And if that's not Mast Chris magic, I don't know what is. That is the end of the Mast Chris special. Jolly Mast Chris, everyone. I'll see you on the other side. I hope.